Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are. I know that our Association for Research in Otolaryngology audience, participants, members are all around the world. So I'm coming from Miami, so it's just past 12 o'clock, so it's good afternoon time. Um, but really want to welcome all of you for the Funding Your Scientific Genius webinar. Very excited. Maybe we'll give a couple more minutes for any other participants to join in, but it's great to see all of you. Please feel free to turn on your videos. We always love to see faces so that when we meet at the ARO, we can say hello in person too. Mhm. All right, so in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. We have a really great panel of program managers and leaders from multiple different foundations, government agencies, as well as from societies that we all typically submit our grants to and work with, and they fund our research, presenting and talking to us about opportunities for Association of Research and Otolaryngology members to receive funding for. I do have to sort of add that unfortunately, folks from NIDCD, Dr. Poremba, who is a very close colleague and works very closely with many of us, cannot join given the recent governmental orders. But we do have two other federal funding agencies, the Department of Veterans Affairs, as well as the Congressionally Directed Research Program, so the CDMRP, joining us. So again, very excited for all of this. What we are hoping for is that this initial presentation from every foundation and the government agencies and from the societies will lead you to consider what are some of the best options for you as you think about your next grants. And at the ARO, set up a time to meet them in person and talk to them about what are the opportunities that you should sort of follow up on. So we'll be sharing the PowerPoint slides that each individual is presenting today with all of you. The ARO will be sending out the slides and the contact information for everybody you're going to hear from today. And we invite you to email them in advance of the ARO and set up a meeting so you can meet them in person and talk about it. So without further ado, I'm going to move forward and invite our colleague, Dr. Claire Thibodeau from Cures Within Reach to tell us a little bit about the programs that they have to support research in otolaryngology. Claire?
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for joining us today. My name is Claire Thibodeau. I am the Vice President of Scientific Affairs at Cures Within Reach. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about our funding to create patient impact through repurposing research. So before we get started, I just want to share a couple definitions. When we talk about repurposing, what that means is taking a drug, device, nutraceutical, diagnostic that's already been approved for human use, and then testing it in a new disease indication. This is a little bit different than taking a human-safe therapy. Maybe it's made it partially down the regulatory pathway, but has never been approved, and then testing it in a new indication. We call that repositioning or rescue, and that's a little bit outside of what we do as an organization. The mission of Cures Within Reach is to leverage the speed, safety, and cost effectiveness of repurposing to drive treatments to patients with unmet medical needs. We fund clinical trials that test these repurposed therapies and de-risk and catalyze these opportunities for additional follow-on trials. As an organization, we're disease agnostic, we're geography agnostic, we're institution agnostic. So in one sense, very broad, but because we focus specifically on repurposing, we're also very narrow at the same time. So our favorite time to fund is what we call the comeback when funding. So this is when a researcher might have some interesting data from the preclinical stages, and they're thinking to themselves, I've got this repurposed therapy. It seems really interesting. I want to move it into the clinic. They may apply to a larger funding organization that says, that sounds like a great idea. Come back when you have some proof of concept data. And that's where Cures Within Reach steps in. Our trials are typically phase 1, phase 2A. However, sometimes we will fund late preclinical studies where it's just that last little push needed to get into the clinic, or we may fund larger phase 2B, phase 3 trials when our funding can be complementary and help increase that patient impact. And there we go. We are also indifferent to the commercial opportunities. We know that repurposing, sometimes if we're looking at generic therapies, may have little or unknown commercial value, and sometimes there is commercial value. But to Cures Within Reach, what we really focus on are the therapies and the indications that are going to make the most patient impact. So again, as I mentioned, disease agnostic, geography agnostic. This slide kind of shows that off a little bit, but you will see that 10% of our current funding portfolio does focus in the kind of general ears, nose, throat area. And this is due largely to our funding program in Meniere's disease and related vestibular conditions. So in 2018, Cures Within Reach launched this funding initiative, working with a funding partner that's very interested in finding repurposed opportunities to treat Meniere's and related conditions. What's unique about our repurposing or our Meniere's portfolio is that it includes not just clinical trials, but also preclinical research. The idea is that we're trying to build a pipeline of repurposing opportunities. So since we started this initiative and funded our first trials in 2019, we funded 11 projects total. 4 are ongoing right now. 7 have completed. We've seen publications, presentations, and even follow-on funding for these completed trials. And this is open to researchers anywhere in the world. We funded trials in the US, in Europe, and Australia. However, our Meniere's program is not the only way that we fund ENT type related projects. They can come through other funding opportunities as well. As you can see here, we've had geography related RFPs yield funded projects, whether it's Chicago or for researchers based in low and lower middle income countries, as well as one for pediatric rare diseases. So when the ARO members are thinking about repurposing projects and Cures Within Reach as a funder, I encourage you to think about not just any Meniere's opportunity we have, but other RFPs as well. And speaking of our RFPs, we are very excited to begin to open our 2025 request for proposal cycle. In next month, we expect to launch 2 funding for researchers based in LMICs in any disease area, as well as funding for Chicago area researchers in health equity, early stage investigators, pediatrics, and veterans. The other really exciting project we have at Cures Within Reach is something new for us. For the first time, we'll have funding for clinical trials to validate AI-generated repurposed drug disease matches. This is a really exciting initiative, and we're talking about it now, even though the initial submissions won't be due until late summer. And that's because We're really looking to give our interested researchers time to start working with AI models to find those drug disease matches in any disease area and start to put together the preclinical data package needed for a submission. So we're really thrilled about this and excited to see what kind of submissions we get. And these are the ones that we know about so far for RFPs. We hope to release more as the year goes on, including another Meniere's disease-focused RFP. All of our our research submissions are on Proposal Central. And I know this is a busy slide, but really the thing for interested researchers to focus on is this section. And that is showing that we have a two-stage submission process. The first is a brief letter of intent. This is kind of light on scientific details, more focused on the repurposing opportunity and the patient impact of the trial. Once we get all of those LOI submissions in, we send them out to our external grant review committee, which is made up of researchers, clinicians, industry representatives, and most important, one of the most important to us is the patient voice as well. We'll review all those submissions, they'll be ranked, and then the top scoring submissions will be invited to submit a full proposal. The full proposal is where we get into more of the scientific details. We do the review process again with our external grant review committee. And of course, internally at Cures Within Reach, we review at both stages, and we have members of our science advisory board review as well. Following the full proposal submissions, then we make our funding decisions. So now I'd just like to spend a little bit of time talking about our review process. I know that's a big question that all of you must have. Again, we have our grant review committee that's made up of volunteers. And I do encourage any researchers out there that are interested, maybe they don't have a submission for Cures Within Reach at this time, but are interested in getting more involved in our work. We're always looking for volunteer grant reviewers. So please reach out if you're interested, and we're happy to provide more information on becoming a grant reviewer with Cures Within Reach. At the LOI stage, we have a pretty straightforward set of review criteria that include the repurposing novelty or innovation, clarity and feasibility of the research plan, relevance to the disease and the patient population, the potential clinical impact, and the investigator and the environment. When we move on to the proposal stage, where it's more scientific details, we do look at the scientific soundness of the proposals as well. And at Cures Within Reach, we know that whenever you submit to an agency, it never feels good when you just get a yes or no, but no feedback. So we always provide any reviewer comments to our PIs, whether they move forward to the proposal stage or not. We really want these comments to be helpful to future submissions. And speaking of future submissions, for the PIs who move on to the proposal stage, we do actually require that they address the review comments, and we score, the proposals are scored on how well that's been done. We really find this iterative process to be helpful and productive, resulting in stronger trials and other projects that we fund. So that is a very brief overview of who we are and what we do. I know we have a lot of other presentations to get to, but if you have any questions, you can, we'll have questions later, I believe, but you can also reach out to me directly. You can visit our website. I will also be at the ARO meeting leaving Sunday afternoon. So if anybody is interested in meeting with me directly, please message me and we can set up a time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Claire. And again, as we mentioned, like, please post your questions in the chat or keep it towards the end, and I'll be happy to bring them up to the panelists and we can have a discussion. So with this, we'll move forward to Dr. Christopher Geisler from the Hearing Health Foundation.
Hi, everyone. As just said, my name is Christopher Geisler. I'm the Director of Program and Research Support at Hearing Health Foundation. We are based in New York and are a funder of hearing imbalance research, like everyone else here. We have two main funding programs. One is a research consortium that's not currently looking for members, so I'm not going to talk about that today. But the open application program we have is called the Emerging Research Grants Program. And through this, we provide seed funding for researchers in the field across the entirety of hearing imbalance research. We fund PIs that have advanced degrees in the field. They must be in the United States and must have a position at a nonprofit, educational, governmental, or research institution. And we have a number of grant opportunities that I'll discuss in a minute. Some of them, or one of them, is restricted to early stage investigators only, and the rest are open to investigators at any career stage. And so there are some extra eligibility restrictions for those early stage investigator grants. So I don't know if I go into any detail here on those, but please, if you're interested in that opportunity, speak to me or look at the information we have online, and I'll provide that address in a moment. The awards are for $50,000, a maximum of $50,000 per year for 2 years. That's 100 total. And we are currently accepting applications. So the next deadline is March 3rd. So it's a little over a month from now. We do have an LOI stage. We call it an LOI. It's not really an LOI. It's more like an eligibility quiz, just to make sure you are eligible to apply. And those are due a few days earlier. I believe it's February 27th. And you must submit that if you're going to submit a full application. So if you are interested in applying, please make sure that you do so in advance of that date so that we can get you on the path to submit the full application. So these applications due March 3rd are for the next project year, which always runs for HHF. It always runs from October 1st to September 30th of the following year. And we're currently looking for applications in a number of areas. The early stage investigator, as I mentioned, we have an Elizabeth M. Keithley PhD Early Stage Investigator Awards. These can be on any topic in hearing imbalance. And then we also have a few topic-specific award opportunities, and these are open to early stage and middle senior investigators. Those are in central auditory processing disorders. It's quite a broad category. We have a definition of that on our website, and I encourage you to look at that if you think maybe your project falls into that umbrella term. And the others are in Meniere's disease, pain hyperacusis, and tinnitus. And so all the information on these opportunities, as well as any policies and those eligibility rules I mentioned, can be found at our website at hhf.org/ERG. So the application, I just mentioned the website for the policy instructions and the application link. The applications are made through Proposal Central. You can also just log in directly to Proposal Central and search for Hearing Health Foundation or Emerging Research Grants, and you'll find us there. The instructions are there and links to the policy, etc. As I mentioned, there's a very brief LOI. It's really just a quiz. It will take you less than 1 minute to do. That must be done by February 27th. The full deadline is March 3rd. March 3rd, meaning 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Every year there's one person who misses it just by a little bit, but the system is set to stop accepting at that time. Proposals must be signed by the institutional signing officer, so please ensure that you leave enough time for them to review the application. And the final warning, late applications cannot be accepted regardless of your excuse. The review criteria and process. So our reviewers, we have a review committee that changes in composition each year. It's made up of mid-career and senior investigators and clinicians that review every eligible application that comes in. And what they're looking for is the proposed project's significance, how innovative it is, the experience of the PI and any co-investigators or other key personnel that you identify, the research strategy, the methods, the institutional environment, whether you can do the proposed work where you are, that the aims are achievable and realistic, that the timeline makes sense for this type of 2-year award. And most importantly, the potential for this project and to provide you with the preliminary data or the other types of information or experience that you need to then go on and apply for other major funding, particularly major federal funding. So this really is envisioned as a seed funding program, and we want to see that something is going to come out of it. So that needs to be demonstrated in the application. That would be one sort of tip for applicants that I would give, that there are some places in the application where that is explicit, but you can also make that implicit in many ways throughout your proposal, that how it fits into the research direction that you're charting out for 2 years and beyond. We do notify all applicants, regardless of the outcome, in the first week of August, as close to August 1st as possible. Like Cures Within Reach, you will receive the reviewers' critiques. We also believe that that's incredibly important for revision and also just for future applications, whether you're proposing this project again or a new one. So we do provide those to every applicant. And like Claire, I will be at ARO as well, and I'm happy to meet with anyone there on Saturday or Sunday if you want to reach out and set up a time to talk. But I'm also happy to talk by email or by phone. Again, you can find all of our program information at hhf.org/ERG. And I have 2 email addresses here and the phone number, and these will be shared with you. So please do get in touch if you have any questions or want to talk through any ideas, or if you have any problems in the application itself, please do get in touch. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that very much. And all the work that all of you have done in funding, like, research in the field of otolaryngology. So with that, we'll move to Dr. Tricia Fusilero from American Hearing Research Foundation.
Great, thank you so much. Let me just make sure this is working for you here. Okay, and some of you may have known my predecessor, Joan Winsenstein. She has just retired, and I'm about 1 month into this new role, so I would love to meet folks at ARO. I will be there as well, and look forward to meeting people. A little bit about American Hearing Research Foundation. It was started in the 50s by Dr. Shambo here in the Chicagoland area. We are originally affiliated with Northwestern, and I have found that most of our board members and researchers who are part of our research committee are from this area, but we are interested in really spreading our wings and growing even more. You'll find that we have about 8 grants that are awarded each year, up to $50,000. There is special consideration for Meniere's disease and causes of sudden hearing loss. We have a couple of donors who are very interested in finding research information about sudden hearing loss, and I have to say they've been able to offer this funding for several years, but we haven't had any research that's been funded in this area yet that I've seen in my experience so far. So there's definitely encouragement to work on providing information about that. 2 projects also may be eligible for additional funding. So after the committee does review the grants, we get about 40 approximately every year. They will review the 8, and 2 will be awarded special consideration. 1 will be able to resubmit for an additional $25,000 for the Bertman grant, and a second will be receiving up to $65,000. So there is a request for additional information for those studies. There are also up to 5 $1,000 grants for residents. Now, the residents do need to be affiliated either with Chicago-based schools or Baylor University, University of Miami, and WashU in St. Louis. Those are connected with current folks who are on our research committee, and that is why those schools do get preferential consideration. Similar to what you heard from Claire and Chris, folks do have to hold an advanced degree. We do, though, limit our affiliation has to be here in the United States. Investigators that are early in their careers will get preference. It's really, again, to help with that seed funding. Information for your proposal, again, should relate to hearing or balance functions of the inner ear, can be basic science clinical studies, and you can investigate aspects of the auditory and vestibular systems. So some examples are listed here. I recommend going to the AHRF website and seeing what has been funded in the past. All of our past researcher information is listed there, and that might be helpful for your proposal to see, okay, what has already been funded, what might be something that is unique that I can offer. So included in the submission, which is on our website, is your project title and general contact information, a one-page summary, and your budget information. There are some exclusions, no salaries for the principal investigators or travel expenses or that overhead. A few other things that we are looking for are information, the biosketch for your PI, relevant publications, but no more than 3 pages would be preferable. We have a one-page cover letter is welcome, but you don't have to if you have a lot of information that you're filling out. And then, of course, your main body and your preliminary data is welcome, but you don't have to present that if you don't have it available. Scoring is based on NIH scoring. We don't give comments or feedback, although I think I'd like to make a recommendation to the committee to see if they might be willing, because I do see that there's some value there. But at this time, no comments are given back. Is it unique? And again, I would go back and look at the website to see what has been presented in the past. Is it realistic? That was one thing I found when I sat in on their deliberations this past year. Some of the submissions were just, they were finding that they just didn't seem that they could fit it all in within 1 year's time. So there was some feedback that we could give people about that. So overall, again, go back to look and see the history. Check out the format. It is the NIH format. So unfortunately, PIs don't get a salary. And at this time, no feedback. Dates to know: Friday, August 15th is when the applications are due. We give notification in late November, and then grants are paid the following year in July. So basic information here of how to get in touch with us. If you would like to follow along as well on social, we do post all of our opportunities on our social media. And I hopefully will look forward to seeing people at ARO. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tricia. We'll definitely miss Joan, but we're excited to have you supporting AHRF and all of the community. So with this, we'll move to the Royal National Institute for Deaf people in the UK, and Melissa Heyman is here to tell us a little bit about the opportunities that they have.
Is that sharing on the full screen?
If you click on the bottom right, yeah, that one should bring it up.
Yeah, can you see that full screen now?
Yes, no, we see the other one, so you have to go to the display settings and flip screens on the top. We see the presenter mode, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, it won't give me an option to.
So if you go ahead and present the slides, and then, yeah, there we go. We got it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. And thank you for the invite for this webinar. This is my first ARO. It's my first year at RNID. So super excited to be here and really excited to come to Florida next month. I'm Melissa. I'm the Hearing Therapeutics Manager at RNID. So for those of you who don't know us, we're the national charity supporting people in the UK who are deaf, have hearing loss and tinnitus. So our whole charity functions by doing this in three really key ways. So we campaign to make society fully inclusive. We do this by providing trusted and independent information and support. But probably most relevant to this audience is we also do this by funding research into the causes and treatments for hearing loss and tinnitus. So as the only UK charity that funds hearing research specifically, we fund projects in three key areas. The first one is preventing hearing loss. So projects under this umbrella will be to identify and understand mechanisms that cause hearing loss and identify and understand the development of new treatments to protect people's hearing. We also will fund projects to restore or improve hearing. So projects like this might be suited to find treatments to restore hearing and to improve the quality of hearing gained through medical devices. And we also fund projects with the aim of silencing tinnitus. So these will all be about identifying the causes and treatments for tinnitus and advanced effective treatment programs for those. So broadly speaking, we fund research under two umbrellas. We fund it through people and we fund through projects. So under the people umbrella, this would be our Future Leaders program. And this is all designed to kind of support the capacity of future leaders in hearing research. And we do this at three key career stages. So we have summer placements, and we actually do this in partnership with another UK charity called Into Science UK. And these are really small grants for undergraduates from underrepresented backgrounds in the UK to discover hearing science through summer placements. This is really nice. Obviously, it's for much younger audience than we are, but it's great to know that you can be a mentor for this. So they kind of need more established researchers to join the scheme to support these students. And then we have our own programs as well. So we fund PhD studentships. These are to train hearing scientists of the future. They aim to encourage the best students to become involved in hearing and tinnitus research in the UK. These are up to 97,500 for 3 years, and we fund these every other year, so the call won't open until summer 2026. But we also have our fellowships, which is a slightly later career stage. So these will be post-PhD researchers, and these are to support them as they gain that transition to becoming an independent hearing researcher. So their value is much higher. They're up to 225,000 for 3 years, and the call will open next month. Unfortunately, these ones are only available to UK researchers at the minute, but our other schemes are all international. So as I said, we also fund under the umbrella of funding projects. And we have 3 schemes under this umbrella, and they fund different stages of the research pipeline. So we have our discovery research grants, and these are more basic science focused. They're all about generating the knowledge that underpins the development of new treatments. These are 3-year awards, again, up to 225,000, and you just have to be based at any academic institution globally. We also have our translational research grant scheme. So this is later stage. It follows on really nicely from our discovery research grants. These are 300,000 for up to 3 years, and you have to be developing a specific novel therapeutic for the treatment of hearing loss or tinnitus for this scheme. Again, they're up to 3 years, but for these ones, you can be based at any research institute or any small medium enterprise in the world. And likewise, we have our innovation seed funds then. So these are small, kind of distinct projects. They're low value, so they're up to £10,000 for 1 year, and they're kind of that pump priming scheme. And that can be anywhere across the kind of research landscape. So it can be a really basic science experiment that you're doing or a key piece of translation that you need to do. So for the discovery and the translational grant, those will both open next month, so keep an eye out for that. And as I said, they're international. And the Innovation Seed Fund, these will open in October, so a bit later this year. So just to quickly run you through the assessment process. So this is what will happen if you come to the Discovery Research Grant or Translational Research Grant. We have a 2-phase application process. So kind of light touch preliminary application, and this is a totally open competition. Anyone can apply for that. We then take all those applications and they're reviewed by a group of experts. So there are grant review panels, and then successful applicants will be invited to submit a bigger, more in-depth full application. These will then be reviewed externally by experts, 2 to 3 experts in the field usually, and then you'll get all your review comments back, which you'll be able to rebut and provide kind of reasoning for any suggestions that they're making. So you'll get to respond to those. You'll see all of your reviews, and then these will be passed on to our final panel meeting where all of those reviews and responses will be discussed. We'll then receive recommendations from the panel and they'll be signed off for funding. And then lastly, in the kind of brief for the webinar, we're asked to maybe highlight some more innovative areas of funding that we're working on, so slightly outside of those traditional grant schemes. So I just wanted to use this to highlight another kind of area that we're working on. So we have established the RNID's Hearing Therapeutics Initiative. And this is really aimed to bridge the gap between public and private sectors who are all working towards the development of novel therapeutics for hearing loss and tinnitus. And so we act like a networking brokerage. So our network members are really vast. They span all the different sectors that you can imagine who are developing hearing therapeutics. We have academics, biotech representatives, clinicians, investors, big pharma, and they all come together and use us to kind of spot expertise that they need from the network, and we make those connections. So we're really fueling bespoke needs all the way through that translational research pipeline. So you can get in contact with us, we can find you that expertise that you're lacking and directly link you up with those. It was established in 2022. We've got over 250 members already. It's just a really great opportunity to kind of have those connections made for you. And then just to finally highlight, under that umbrella of hearing therapeutics, this year we'll be having an in-person summit. It's a one-day event that will be in London. It's a great way to meet other people in the network. So please do sign up to our network using the QR code below. You'll receive lots of fun things. You'll receive a newsletter, invites to bespoke content such as webinars and training sessions. So yeah, please join us, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. We'll actually have a booth at the ARO next month, so we'll be at booth 3, so definitely come by and ask you questions and say hi.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Look forward to seeing you at the ARO next month. I look forward to seeing all of you at the ARO next month. So we're going to now move to Dr. Andrea Van Butas, who will be presenting what some of the societies, especially AOS and ANS, have in terms of funding opportunities. So please take it away.
So, hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Van Butas. I'm the chair of the AOS Research Committee. And actually, this was originally supposed to be presented by Rona Herzano, who's the chair of the ANS Research Committee. But since it's a joint presentation and she couldn't be here, she handed it off to me. Anyway, oh, why are my slides? There it goes. Okay. So first, we're going to take a look at the American Neurologic Society research grants. Basically, the purpose is really to support academic research and investigate the sciences of otology and neurotology. And it's really for physician investigators that do not have any federal funding at this time. And the intent is to try to get them to that point. And so the focus areas really can be any area: diagnosis and management of diseases of the ear or skull base, cell and molecular studies, anything really related to hearing or balance. And so typically what they do is they'll fund 3 grants for $25,000 per grant. Last year, there were 3 grants that were funded, and to date, there's been about $425,000 distributed. The grant application itself is quite simple. It's a 3-page research strategy. It covers direct costs only. There are no indirect costs allowed, and the deadlines, as you can see, are there. The other thing that we are looking for, and we are looking for grants that really understand the role of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or accessibility for patient care, education in otology and neurotology. This is open to ANS members for this grant mechanism. And the budget at this point is to be determined based on the project. In terms of all of the grants, there is no overlap permitted. The administrator for the American Neurologic and American Otologic is the same person, so we see if there's an overlap immediately. And we do need statements of support for other PI from the PIs prior to initial funding, saying that there's no overlap. This is an example of who was funded in 2024. As you can see, the projects are both clinical and more basic science. But many of these investigators have gone on to academic faculty positions and independent funding. So basically, the initial idea is a 3-page grant. There is a deadline of March 1st, and the funding will be announced anywhere from July. Funding period starts July 1st. And with questions, you can reach out to Rona Hertzano or Dr. Aaron Remenschneider or Kristen Bordengan, who's again, the administrator for both of our societies. Finally, Rona had wanted to highlight that there's a combined grant now with the Vestibular Disorders Association with ANS. It's a clinical outcomes research grant that's about to start. And what they're looking for is new treatment methods, development of new treatment instruments to gauge outcome, basic science research, and submission deadline is March 1st. So take a look at the ANS website for further details regarding this. In terms of the American Otologic Research Fund, really we're looking at all diseases of the ear, hearing, and balance. There's more detailed information on the website itself. However, there are 5 types of grants available. There's a research grant, a fellowship grant, a clinical investigation, clinician scientist, and finally, new to us is a medical student grant that's now been around for 1 year. The research grant allows for a faculty with either an MD or PhD for any topic in ear-related disorders. However, they may not have any major funding. So if you have a large amount of federal funding, please do not apply. We will not be able to consider your grant. It provides $55,000 per year. It is a 1-year non-renewable grant. The fellowship grant is open to clinical fellows, residents, and postdoctoral fellows. New for this coming year we will no longer be accepting preclinical doctoral student applications. Again, this is any topic in ear-related disorders. Again, our grants are 3 pages. In this particular instance, we also need a statement from the mentor. This provides up to $44,000 per year. Again, there's no indirect cost. $4,000 in indirect costs. The clinical investigations grant is up to $66,000 per year. This is a NIH R21 style grant. However, it is 3 pages instead of 6. And the hope is that you are also submitting it to NIH as it is a 1-year grant. Finally, the Clinician Scientist Award. This is a 3-year award. It provides up to $240,000 for 3 years, $80,000 per year, $70,000 of which can be salary, which hopefully gets you the protected time you need to really do an in-depth investigation of the topic of your choosing. This hopefully the intent is that you will go on to apply for a K grant from NIH. You have to hold a full-time university teaching appointment to be eligible for this award. You have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. If you do receive a K award at any time during this award you will have to turn back in. But I would hope that that's okay. The medical student grant is our newest award. This can either be part-time or full-time. For full-time, it can provide $20,000. For part-time, for instance, a summer project, and it can provide $5,000 for that period of time. Mentorship is one of the key elements that we look at in this grant, and it is non-renewable. So one of the things that we looked at is the likelihood of conversion of an AOS grant to future NIH funding. And so last year we reviewed the data and we looked at all recipients of AOS grants from 2009 to 2024 in NIH Reporter, and the results were quite striking. The research grant awards, 22 out of 31 went on to NIH funding, or 70% of people. The clinical investigation grant, I mean, albeit we had a smaller number of applicants, 100% were successful for future NIH funding. And the Clinician Scientists Award, 11 out of 14 are awarded grants by NIH. And the reason there's the asterisk after it is the 3 most recent ones are still in their renewal period of their Clinician Scientists Award. And we fully expect that they're going to go on and be successful for NIH funding. So I would expect this number to be in the high 80 to 100% range. So important dates to be aware of. The letter of intent is due on November 1st. We review the letter of intent and rank applicants and ask for full submissions from a select few. And then the final grant deadline is due on January 31st. We do provide some brief written feedback. No overlaps are permitted. This is an example of our awardees last year. You can see that we've had a good number of funded applications. Last year, we awarded $399,000. But our 5-year history is we've distributed over $8 million since 1997. This gives you the total number of awards. So last year was 11, the year before was 7. And so I guess it depends on the balance of CSA awards versus other awards. And so with that, this is really our timeline for submission. If you have any questions, please reach out to either myself or Kristen, and we're happy to answer any questions and would be delighted to hear from you. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Andrea. That's great outcomes for AOS as well as ANS. I know the support is really critical and helpful.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to stop sharing. I apologize.
No problem. So with that, we'll move towards the 2 major funding programs led by federal agencies in the U.S. We'll first have Dr. Tian Wang present the CDMRP-led Hearing Restoration Research Program.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. So it's always a pleasure to present at the funding panel. And I will get on. Let's see, how do I move here? So I'm Tian Wang. I'm the program manager of the Hearing Restoration Research Program. It is under DoD, and I have to make this disclaimer. And what I'm talking about cannot be taken as official policy position of the DoD, Army, and the U.S. government. Okay, so the HRP is one of more than 35 research programs under the umbrella that's Congressionally Directed Medical Research Programs, CDMRP. And this slide shows a 3,000-foot view of what CDMRP is and what it does. Basically, the CDMRP manages biomedical research programs as directed by Congress. And our funding comes from Congress on a year-by-year basis, so there's never a guarantee of next year's funding. We execute those funds to support research projects around the world. So not just the investigators in the U.S. are eligible to apply, and investigators in some other countries can also apply as long as you have the SAM.gov account. Basically means that you're eligible to apply for federal grants. And moving on to the HRP, Congress established us in fiscal year 2017. Through fiscal year 24, we have received $70 million in total appropriation. And the vision of the HRP is to reduce the burden of hearing loss on service members, veterans, and the American public. This is really directly related to what Congress tells us to do. And we try to achieve this vision by deliver groundbreaking research and solutions for hearing restoration by advancing the understanding, diagnosis, repair, and regeneration of the auditory system. So we are specifically focused on hearing restoration after sensory neural hearing loss related to auditory system injury. So the research project doesn't have to be on injury per se, but it must be related to injury. So basically, whatever solution you're trying to develop must be applicable to injury. And a few finer details. And so under the scope, this includes hearing loss caused by noise, blast wave, jet fuels, anything related to the auditory system injury. But currently, we are not funding tinnitus or vestibular research. This is related to the congressional intent. And we're not funding conductive hearing loss, hearing disease, congenital hearing loss, or research on hearing aid or cochlear implant. So these other conductive disease and congenital, these are determined by the program. So the tinnitus and vestibular research restriction is by Congress, but the other is determined by the program. Basically, is trying to put our dollar to the most pressing issue. Okay, so the HRP released a 5-year strategic plan in 2023, and you can find it on our website, by the way. The strategic plan outlines 3 lines of effort, LOE, and those those provide a good understanding of what really want to achieve or what we want to work on. So I will spend time to read it out. Validate and translate biological regeneration repair mechanisms into clinical applications. Accelerate the development of reliable in vitro human models to facilitate therapeutic development, and advance diagnostic capability to support clinical testing of potential therapeutics. And then on the right-hand side of this table, these are the focus areas for fiscal year 25. And the 3 focus areas align with the 3 lines of effort, respectively. And the focus area language are the same as those in fiscal year 24. I strongly encourage any people interested in applying to the HRP to read both the line of effort and our focus area carefully too, because one of the important criteria for funding is that you have to align with our focus area. Okay, so we do not yet have FY25 appropriation. As you know, the government is on a continuing resolution. And because we receive funding year by year, without an appropriation, we cannot release funding opportunity. But we do have already determined what is our FY25 investment strategy. And so this is basically a summary of that. And we will execute the strategy as soon as we have appropriation. We will be offering 2 award mechanisms. One of them, many of you have already been familiar with, that is the Focused Research Award. And in FY25, we're offering 2 funding levels. The funding level 1 is for a small award for 2 years, $250,000 direct cost. Funding level 2 is a bigger project, direct cost $750,000 plus indirect, of course, and that's for 3 years. But we're also offering a new award mechanism called Expansion Award. And that has a direct cost of up to $1 million. It's for 3 years. I will talk about both the Focus Research Award and Expansion Award on the next 2 slides. And we don't, of course, we don't have a specific date yet because we don't have the budget. But I provide the key dates from fiscal year 24 program cycle. And as long as we get the appropriation in time to meet similar dates, we will. The intent of the program is to have the similar range of dates pending appropriation. And you can scan the QR code on the bottom right to subscribe to program news. And if you subscribe, then as soon as our agency has finished inspecting our website for any content that the EO does not want to be on the website, right now our website is down. But as soon as we finish doing that, we will post a pre-announcement on our website. The pre-announcement will have details about the spending mechanisms, eligibility, key elements, and stuff. If you subscribe, you will receive an email regarding those regarding the pre-announcement, and you will also receive an email when the full funding opportunity is released. So briefly, what is the intent and key elements of the Focused Research Award? It is to support promising research that accelerate drug discovery and therapeutic development for hearing restoration after auditory system injury. And the two funding levels, the first is to support exploratory, high-risk, high-reward research in the earliest stages of development. And for this funding level, preliminary data are allowed but not required. You really can use this to test something that is very novel, very new, even borrowed from a different field. But you must provide strong rationale, and your research team, if you're coming from a different field or you're collaborating with someone from different field, you must demonstrate that the team has sufficient expertise to test this idea. Funding level 2 supports the advancement of more mature research toward clinical translation. And for this, we require preliminary data to support both the readiness and feasibility of the proposed research. Readiness is if there are any questions that you should have answered before you even start this project, the preliminary data should be presented. Feasibility is the preliminary data supporting that whatever you're proposing to do are feasible. And for funding level 2, applications may focus on any phase of research from basic through translational, so very broad. But it's not going to be, you cannot use the Focused Research Award mechanism to support clinical trial. Clinical study, if it's observational, it's okay, but not clinical trial. And then there's something new for funding level 2. We are offering a partnering PI option. This is for 2 principal investigators to collaborate. Of course, in the previously, you can also collaborate, but there's only 1 PI, and collaborator will receive a sub-award. And here, there are going to be 2 PIs. One is called the initiating PI. The initiating PI will be responsible to submit the pre-application, which is in the form of a letter of intent, and a full application package that has everything, all the attachments. And the partnering PI will submit an abbreviated full application package, but does not need to submit full application, but abbreviated package. Both PI should contribute significantly to the development and execution of the proposed research project. And if recommended for funding, each PI will receive a separate award. And why we're doing this is really actually for budgetary reasons, because if we're using the sub-award structure, then both the direct and indirect costs of the sub-award are included in the direct cost of the prime award, and that contribute to the base of calculation for the indirect for the prime. So that artificially increase the cost to the program. It doesn't help researcher as well because everything has to be under that cap, remember? So if we do it this way, so basically the total of the direct cost for the initiating PI and the partnering PI has to be under that direct cost cap, but it does give a little bit of extra room because we're not calculating indirect on the indirect of the subcontract. And the expansion award, this is really it's not open to everyone, I have to say. It is only open to people who have previously received HRP award. And the intent is to support the continued investigation and further development of highly impactful research projects that were previously funded. And this is one of the intent, but the goal, I can tell you the goal is to, encourage people to break the silos between separate development of diagnostic study and development of therapeutics study. So it's really to integrate new, advanced, better diagnostic tools with therapeutic development. Specifically, if you look at the scope here, this is to support translational research that incorporates the application of diagnostic tools and methods that differentiate sensory neurosynaptic and central processing disorder into the testing of potential therapeutics. And I have additional information. It can be a pilot clinical trial, cannot be a full-scale trial, and can be collection data from another trial that's not funded by us. That's okay. Other key elements, the research team must have expertise and track record in both the development of diagnostic tools and methods and developing of therapeutics. And we encourage collaboration, but you don't have to collaborate if your research team already have both expertise and track record. That's okay, but collaboration is really encouraged. And we offer the partnering PI option. So basically, if it's collaboration, you can have an initiating PI and partnering PI. And when it comes to who are eligible to apply, I said that you have to have the previous award, right? So investigators who serve as a PI for project award, basically any period of HRP in existence, they're eligible to be named as PI or the initiating PI. The partnering PI does not have to have had an HRP award. The initiating PI has to. One last bit is clinical feasibility. If you are going to integrate, because this is to integrate diagnostic tool and methods with therapeutics, you have to consider the clinical feasibility of that when designing the study, and it will be a review criteria. So I think this is everything I have on the in the talk. I do want to say that I am not going to be at ARO, but we have someone from the HRP team, Colleen Lavinka, a science officer, who will be at ARO. And if you have questions, please reach out to her. Colleen, could you put your email in the chat? And then stay tuned for our pre-announcement. Will be more official than this one.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Wang. I appreciate it. Everybody, I know that we're running a little bit over time, but I really want you to also hear from Dr. Lena Kubli at the Department of Veterans Affairs, who has actually supported my own research, but a lot of people in the community. So please, Lena.
Okay. Just want to make sure that you're able to see my screen. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much. I'll try to be really quick so that I do not keep you from other sessions. But basically, I wanted to give you an opportunity to learn about the Department of Veterans Affairs and what kinds of funding we support. And there are a lot of people that are affiliated with universities, such as Dr. Rajguru, who can also apply through his local VA medical center. So we do really encourage people to leverage funding from multiple different federal agencies to advance their research. How do we get our priorities? So can you see my next slide? Hold on 1 second, sorry. Am I advancing my slide? I'm not. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Now it is.
All right. Thank you. Sorry. So we get input from lots of different stakeholders, including, of course, our veterans. The health priorities that are concerning our veterans, hearing loss, tinnitus, vestibular, all of those are really important. And our research really spans in all different stages of research, from basic applied research that could be conducted in animal studies to human studies, to even looking at patient care when there are interventions that are implemented, practice, and then looking at whole populations. So there's a real good research translational pipeline. So I want to mention that. What types of projects do we have? We have all different types of projects that we support across the different program areas. There are pilot projects, which are high risk, high reward, but you don't need preliminary data. It's really to obtain preliminary data. It's for $115,000 for 2 years. We have non-clinical trials that we support for $200,000, and then clinical trials, which are at the bottom of that table. It really depends on how many sites are involved and how as to how much funding a PI can apply for. So if there are multiple sites involved, then there's additional funding that's available for each of the sites. In addition to that, we have translational development award stage 1 and stage 2. Those are fairly new for us, and the RFAs are posted internally. It's an intramural funding site, meaning that the best way to get involved and to understand about the different types of applications and deadlines is really to go get connected with the VA Medical Center. There are research offices, at least 80 to 90 throughout the country, that you can collaborate with if you're interested. And those research offices can help you gain access to the different types of awards and the different websites. And of course, you can also get in touch with us, the program managers. In addition to the awards that I mentioned, we have career development awards. There are career development level 1 and level 2 types of awards. So encourage you again to reach out to program managers to learn more about those types of awards. We have research career scientists that are funded for anywhere from 5 to 7 years. They submit an application indicating an area of interest, and we have several research career scientists that are affiliated with hearing science. And then we also have centers. There's one large center that is located in Portland called the National Center for Rehabilitative Auditory Research. I think many people have heard presentations from those investigators. So feel free to contact our center director and investigators to ask them more about what it's like to submit to the VA. Could you collaborate with them? What are some opportunities? And get their honest feedback. I encourage you to do that. What kinds of research is supported? And as I mentioned some of this before, tinnitus, auditory processing, balance disorders, dysphagia, swallowing disorders. So it's a broad portfolio. It includes vision and multi-sensory impairment. So here's an opportunity to submit not only if you're interested in vestibular, but maybe you're looking at vision as well. So there is an opportunity to submit applications in a multi-sensory domain. You're not restricted. Many of the types of applications that we accept are investigator-driven. We also have some special emphasis areas. So, for example, traumatic brain injury and any kind of sensory dysfunction that can occur more chronically. So if you look at what Dr. Wang talked about, she's talking about service members and the acute types of injuries that can occur. We take care of the veterans when they leave active duty military, and some of the projects span across active duty and the VA population. How do you apply for funding? Well, it's an intramural research program. So the first step would be to contact a VA research office. If you're not sure where one is located, I am happy to look up the ACOS for research at the various different areas and connect you by email. The applicants must hold either a 5/8 appointment, and you might be thinking, well, I don't have a 5/8 appointment. You can also talk to the research office, and if you have a letter indicating from them that you have support to submit that application, that this is an area of interest to them, and that they have space for you to conduct the research, then that is another way to submit an application. We do require pre-applications come in. We review all the pre-applications to make sure that they're a good fit for the place that you're applying to. And there are several different times of the year that applicants can apply for funding. So right now, I won't be at ARO this year, unfortunately, because we have our review cycle occurring for our winter session in February. but we also have a summer session, summer review cycle. And people can review it all different. So it depends on what the topic of the research is. I'm sorry, no phone calls. And then there's some additional slides. In the interest of time, I think I will leave these slides for you to review, and feel free at any time to contact me if you have questions. We support a diverse range of research, so I want you to consider that. There are many opportunities if you're affiliated at a university to also apply to the VA. We have many investigators, and you will find them at ARO that have done both. And Dr. Rajguru is a prime example, but there are several others. And then there's some supplemental slides that you can go through when you have some time. But I did want to just provide you with my contact information. We have another program manager, Dr. Amanda Hunt, who is looking more at the more basic types of research. So you can reach out to either one of us. We're happy to talk to you. We often meet with investigators together. So feel free to contact us. And I encourage you to apply to the VA. I think it's a very rewarding experience. And we are very hands-on with our investigators. We try to, when I say hands-on, I mean give them feedback after review or provide them with guidance if they run into problems with their research. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Kubli. And I can say that every program that was presented today from the VA, from the CDMRP for the hearing restoration research program to all of the foundations and societies, they do a remarkable work supporting our research. Everybody here that I've met have been super helpful with all of the feedback and things like that. So we might have time for just one or two quick questions. Otherwise, please know that the PDFs of the slides will be shared through ARO with all of you. That will contain the contact information for all of the program officers and the managers. And you can set up meetings with them or follow up emails and conference calls with them. So there being no questions, I want to once again thank all of you, all the participants, but also the panelists especially, for really joining us and helping with this session. I think it is a really informative session that ARO every year has, ARO members have benefited from every single year. And so I thank you again very much. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody in February.
Thank you for the opportunity, and feel free to contact any one of us.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.